During this video tutorial, we will discuss structuring the literary analysis essay. Be sure to take notes while you watch this video. Feel free to pause it at any point. The video does not pause for you to take notes, so be sure to do that on your own. Remember also that we are only talking about structuring your essay, not developing the ideas. So you should be looking at an essay prompt that you wish to respond to, or possibly an essay that you have already written for revision. Make sure you have these materials ready before proceeding. Are you ready? Then let's go. Let's take a look at the basic literary analysis essay blueprint. This blueprint looks like a formula, and it is. That may seem a little mechanical or artificial to you, but when you're working on a state test or an ACT or some other high-pressure environment where you must produce an essay quickly and easily, it's helpful to adhere to a format. Later on, when you're being more creative, you can break rules as you wish, rearrange items within the blueprint, and basically be creative. However, right now, you want to make sure to adhere to this format, to write an essay that is clear and pleases a standardized test grader. The blueprint starts with the introduction. The introduction paragraph is a very simple procedure. It consists of 3 parts. The beginning is an attention-grabbing device. I won't go into attention-grabbing devices here. Undoubtedly, your English teacher will help you understand how to write an attention-grabbing device. But you must remember that every literary analysis essay should begin with something that will grab your reader's attention. That could be a rhetorical question, it could be a quotation, it could be a moment from one of the stories that you will discuss. But in some way you must entice your reader into the essay. That's your first part of the introduction. After your attention-grabbing device, you should familiarize your reader with the actual text or texts that you will discuss. The literary analysis essay may embrace more than one text, and you should basically introduce the names of the texts, the titles, and a little bit about their basic story. So after the AGD, the attention-grabbing device, move into a simple introduction of both texts. Finally, at the end of the introduction comes your thesis. Your thesis is the most important statement in the entire essay because it captures the entire idea in one sentence. Constructing a thesis is simple. If you have been given a prompt and you are responding to that prompt, then you follow 2 steps. First, you restate the language of the prompt, including important concepts that the prompt addresses. Those concepts could be theme or point of view, setting, characterization, and so on. And the prompt should leave it open such that you can actually add something original. This would be your answer. So make sure you not only restate the language of the prompt, but you answer it in the thesis. Again, I'm not going into detail on each of these items, because those are lessons in themselves. Lessons that your English teacher should have taught you. The introduction paragraph consists, therefore, of 3 parts: the attention-grabbing device, the introduction of both texts, and the thesis statement. Then you're done. So let's move on to the body of your essay, the developing paragraphs. The blueprint has given 2 developing paragraphs. However, you may develop 3, 4, possibly even 5 paragraphs. Remember that you should determine the number of developing paragraphs based upon your ideas. If this is a simple contrast essay, for example, then you may only want 2 developing paragraphs, 1 for each subject that you're contrasting. Determine the number based on your ideas. Let's look at the developing paragraph itself. The introduction consisted of 3 parts. The developing paragraph consists of 4. First is a topic sentence. The topic sentence is not evidence. The topic sentence connects the developing paragraph to the thesis. So, for instance, if your thesis addressed how both texts develop a similar theme, then your topic sentence for paragraph 1 may be how the first text develops it. The topic sentence must connect to the thesis statement and use some of the same language. After the topic sentence, you introduce evidence. You shouldn't only provide one piece of evidence. Instead, at least two pieces of evidence per paragraph is necessary. You may actually introduce a third piece of evidence, but two is your minimum number. The two pieces of evidence should be specific and distinct. Specific means that they point to an actual part of the story. Distinct means that they are different. If you're unsure about whether or not yours are distinct, then consider whether your evidence comes from different parts of the story, or perhaps they are different quotations. Make sure that you have two pieces of evidence that are distinct and specific. Finally, you must conclude the developing paragraph with a concluding statement. The concluding statement is very simple. It should simply restate the topic sentence. Just as a literary analysis essay itself includes an introduction and a conclusion, your developing paragraph presents a topic sentence and a concluding statement. So, the developing paragraph moves from topic sentence to evidence to evidence to concluding statement. But we must talk about something else. If there are 4 parts to your developing paragraph, those parts must be glued together with transition words and phrases. You can find lists of transition words and phrases on the internet, or perhaps your teacher has given you a list of those. Make sure that between each piece of evidence, you provide some sort of transition. You also may want to consider providing transition in the topic sentence if you're moving from one developing paragraph to the next. So, at the beginning of developing paragraph 2, you'll probably want some sort of transition in your topic sentence. Transition might be something like on the other hand, or in addition, or similarly. Look at a list of transition words and phrases to use them as you deem appropriate. But do make sure that you have transition language throughout. This will glue these different pieces together and make it an entire essay. After you've finished with your developing paragraphs, you move to your conclusion, which only has 2 parts. The beginning of the conclusion is the restatement of the thesis. The end is an interest-developing device. Alright, the restatement of the thesis should be pretty clear and simple. All you need to do is make sure that you've summarized your overall idea for the essay. Try not to copy the thesis exactly. That will seem very artificial and will put your reader off. Instead, try to summarize your ideas for the entire essay in different language. Once you've done that, you want to make sure to leave your reader with something that is interesting about the essay. Just as you grabbed their attention at the beginning, you want to make sure you have their attention and interest at the end, to justify that this literary analysis essay was worth their reading. It may give them something to think about as they leave the essay. Again, interest-developing devices are a lesson in themselves, but they often link to attention-grabbing devices. So, if you've begun your essay with a question, for instance, you may end it that way as well. Check with your English teacher for more detail about interest-developing devices at the end of your conclusion. This is the blueprint. This is the format. If you follow this, you'll be sure to write an essay that is clear. All you need to worry about at this point will be your ideas. Make sure that you are not missing any part of this blueprint. Otherwise, your structure will fail. Let's review some of the most important characteristics of a good literary analysis essay. A good literary analysis essay will have at least 4 paragraphs, an introduction, 2 developing paragraphs, and a conclusion. It may have more than 4 paragraphs, but 4 is the minimum. Make sure that you do have separate introductions and conclusions that follow the format seen here. 2 pieces of evidence per developing paragraph are necessary, and make sure that you are using transition words and language to join all these pieces together. Follow this blueprint, apply it to your ideas, and you will write an essay that is clear and successful and earns a good grade on any sort of standardized test. Good luck.